make sure. Okay, so again, the book, it's called Killers of the Flower Moon. It's in the office waiting for you to be picked up. It has to be picked up today or tomorrow morning, okay? Because it is, like I said, it's already checked out to you. If you cannot pick it up, the librarian also sent a note to you saying that if you cannot pick it up, please contact her and she will find a way to get it to your home. So, but it needs to be picked up before spring break, because the day that we get back from spring break, you will be assigned to read it. Okay. So make sure that you pick up the book. There is no online version of this book, so you need the actual physical copy of the book. So make sure that you have that copy. Any questions on that? Anything? Anyone got that book already? Anyone come by and pick it up? Probably not, I'm assuming. There's a whole big stack up there still. But you guys need to come get it. Okay. Check your emails, people. All right. So we got a lot to go over today. So I want to make sure that we get through it. Spencer, you got a camera? I have that camera on. I know that you're there, man. We'd like to see your face. It's hard talking to black screens. There he is. Hola. Huh. Okay. So anyway, we're going to keep on moving forward, talking about the heritage of the Cherokee Indians and things like that. And then, but we're moving closer to home today. So we're moving closer to our area in the Siloam Springs area and things like that. So, which hopefully will kind of give you a little bit more insight as to how things happened around our area and how it affected our area and things like that. So I'll show you where we're at today. And then, you don't have any vocab today, but we're gonna go. So here's the material that you'll need for today. I've got we're gonna go over the PowerPoint slides. These are articles that I attached that are going to be beneficial for that will help you and help you with your paragraph that you'll need to write. Remember, guys, that when I give you this, okay, when I give you these, you're not just filling this part out, okay? You're not just filling these out. You're writing a paragraph also. You're writing a paragraph down here at the bottom, okay? A lot of you just keep turning stuff in and all you have is this stuff filled out, okay? You're taking all this information here and you're writing a paragraph at the bottom, okay? So please, 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 please make sure you're writing that paragraph, okay? All right. So, anywho, we're gonna start with the slides so you guys can follow along with the slides and take notes. I really want you to take notes on these slides. I don't have notes for you to fill out. So if you all want, you can open up the slide set of your own on Classroom that I provided for you as we go through the slides together. So let's see, where's my, oh, there we go. So can you see my slides okay? You guys can see my stuff, okay? Yeah, okay, got a thumbs up from Spencer. Okay, so closer to home, or closer to Siloam Springs, So one thing I want to talk to you about, though, is that we've talked a lot about like the Trail of Tears. We've talked about the Carlisle Industrial Indian School, and we've also talked about you guys analyzed that picture showing the westward expansion and things like that. Why do you think that the Native Americans were treated so badly? Why did white men treat Native Americans so badly? Why did they treat them so inhumanely? Why did they do that? Why do you think that they did at the time? Based on what you've learned about them so far, why do you think that? Okay, their color, okay. Any other ideas based on what you've read so far? They didn't respect their culture or just the people in general? Okay. Okay. They were different. Mm-hmm. They were not the same as them. Okay. All right. So can we say that like Native Americans were somewhat primitive to the way white men saw things at the time? And like, you know, Native Americans, they lived outside. They lived off the land. They hunted and I mean, they hunted and they used animals and things like that for their food, their fur, their clothing, their shelter, everything. I mean, that was the way that they lived. And so is it possible that that white men at the time actually saw them as, you know, they were not as sophisticated as they were maybe as well? So, but yeah, I mean, those are all good answers. So, but I think I like the one that they didn't respect their culture. That's a really big one. They did not respect their culture or even understand their culture to begin with, understand really what their culture was about and who they were. The idea was they're not like us. So we need to make sure that they become like us. And so we need to change them. So yeah. So they saw them as kind of, they saw, how do you think that they looked at them as? Since they were so uncultured and they did not respect them, how do you think that they looked at them as? Savages. Okay. So, and by that, what do you mean by that? Okay, they were completely different, acted different than the way that Americans didn't act. Do you think that maybe that since white men were so sophisticated and everything that they saw them as more like animals? Like they lived like animals kind of? So that's why they treated them like they did? Okay. All right. Okay, so let's take a look at the slides. So Going Snake. So Westville, Oklahoma. Who's heard of Westville? Westville, yeah. So Going Snake District was named in the honor of the revered Cherokee leader Going Snake, I-Na-Do-Na-E, also known as Crawling Snake. He was born approximately 1758 near the present Tennessee, North Carolina boundary. He became known to the Cherokees as an orator and political leader. He served as chief of the tribal town. In January 1839, Going Snake arrived in the Cherokee Nation West and settled in Adair County, Oklahoma, about 5 miles north of Westville, Oklahoma. So see, we're close to home now. So we're famous. We got some famous stuff over here. All right. So Going Snake is approximately 20 miles from Siloam Springs. Marshals from Arkansas and Siloam Springs were assigned to the Cherokee Nation. These lawmen served the area from Fort Smith into Oklahoma. Pretty cool, huh? Going Snake was the location of several key events that pitted the Cherokees against the U.S. Marshals. One is the Going Snake Massacre that had to do with the death of Polly Beck at the hands of Zeke Proctor. This happened at the Hildebrand Mill in Flint Creek, just a few miles from Siloam Springs. Anyone heard of Flint Creek? I've been there a couple times. Another has to do with Ned Christie. Okay, we're going to learn about Ned Christie. There's an article about Ned Christie that I attached as well. So let's watch this little video about Ned Christie. All right, and you might want to write some stuff down about him. get my video working just right. Can you hear it?
Let's go back to 1887, when northeastern Oklahoma was Indian territory. The railroads were moving in, and so were a lot of outlaws. For many people, Ned Christie is the ultimate Indian outlaw. He was called an outlaw, but many Cherokees disagree.
Well, a lot of people, when they think of Ned Christie, they think of him as an outlaw. A lot of the literature that you read, a lot of the exhibits that you see portray Ned as an outlaw who killed a deputy U.S. Marshal. To the Cherokees, though, he is a patriot.
In the hills of Jollagee, there lived a man called Christie.
He was well respected amongst the Cherokee people, primarily because he spoke and wanted Cherokee sovereignty. He did not want encroachment. He did not want any type of dealings with the white people coming inside and basically taking what we had. Ned had grown up in Adair County. His dad had fought in the Civil War, Watt Christie. And Watt Christie was a known blacksmith. And so Ned, growing up, would teach her skills to her children. He learned how to be a blacksmith too. From what I understand is that the guns that he was given from the Civil War that his dad had fought with were powder guns. Ned had converted them down to where it's percussion, where he didn't have to use the powder. It made him quicker and faster to reload. And he was a young man when he was doing this.
I think Ned had this feeling toward the United States and toward people who were non-Cherokee, particularly white people, that they had no right in his nation, and especially if they were going to influence it in some way.
It really all begins in 1887. The Cherokee Female Seminary had burned on Easter Sunday, and there had been a council meeting that had been called here in Tahlequah.
And they're discussing funds and what to do with the rebuilding of the school. He's up around the north part of Tahlequah. He's going to ride back the next day. He wants to go and get something to drink before he goes home.
So he ventured to a part of town that had a speakeasy type place.
Goes to visit some people up north, and there's a woman up there, sells him some whiskey. He goes, drinks that. He ends up passing out.
He woke up the next morning, ventured into town where he heard he was accused of killing a marshal by the name of Dan Maples.
Initially, there were about 5 people who had been accused of being in the vicinity where Dan Maples had been shot and killed. Ned was the only one that they were never able to apprehend. Therefore, he became the main suspect.
The people there tell him, Ned, they're going to be coming here looking for you. You need to take off and run. And he was wanting to explain his position, that he wasn't there, and that he was innocent of these charges. He doesn't leave the state and run. He basically goes back home. And he sends letters, even to hanging Judge Parker, saying that I did not commit this crime. Please give me some time to prove my innocence.
Marshals would come, bounty hunters, and he realized then that this was a fight that wasn't going to be anything simple for him or his family.
He had a lot of people protecting him. There was a mountain that had been a fort, I guess that you would say, a lookout, and they would warn Ned when there were marshals or other people in the vicinity of his home.
I think the sense of community was extremely tight. That extended to everybody that lived here. And so they rallied around him to make sure that he was okay.
It's a huge sort of fortified structure. It was designed so that he could look outside the window and see if anybody was coming so he could shoot and could keep himself protected. Family lived there, and as many times as the marshals tried to go and get him, he kept himself free from them. 5 years. They knew where he was, 5 years, and they couldn't go and get him.
There was a new marshal that came over at Fort Smith, and his name was Marshal Jacob Yose. And Yose thought this had gone on long enough, so he wanted Ned apprehended. And the reward was fairly large. I believe it was almost $1,000 at that point. They say it was about a posse of about 32 men that came.
They'll also bring a cannon with them, which shoots projectiles shaped like bullets.
From what I understand, about 36 shots they sent this cannon shooting at this house, and they couldn't bring it down. And so much so that the more powder they put in there, eventually they ended up blowing up part of the cannon.
But they also bring with them a lot of dynamite.
That they used almost like a trailer to take the cannon off of it and the axle, hid behind it and pushed it towards the house because they had TNT, they had dynamite. And while Ned was trying to keep them off and shooting at them, they tossed the dynamite there and started the structure down.
Ned, knowing he's ran out of ammunition, goes out the front door of the cabin and he has his rifle up as if he's going to shoot, but it's empty of any bullets. And of course they shoot him.
And then they all unloaded and they killed him. He was an innocent Cherokee man. They put him on display, public display.
Propped him up on the front porch of the courthouse, and let all of the crowd see him.
So people could come up there and they would stand there and take their shots with him. They'd kill Ned Christie.
This is the federal government saying this is what happens to you if you decide to go up against us. It's sad to see that as someone's legacy when in the Cherokee Nation, we revere him as this wonderful patriot and somebody who really stood up for our rights as a nation.
And Ned was accused of everything, every crime that showed up in those 5 years that he was running from the people. He was accused of everything, about 11, 12, 15 murders from what I understand. And he didn't do any of them, not a single one. And so around 1918, a man, Humphreys, came forward.
He was a Cherokee freedman. He states that he saw the murder of Deputy U.S. Marshal Dan Maples, and that it had been Bub Traynor who had done the shooting.
I really don't think Ned was fully exonerated. And why do I say that? People even still today call him an outlaw.
But there was no one there to see, so they just killed Ned Christie.
If I had 3 words to describe Ned Christie, a patriotic Cherokee warrior.
Our Geronimo, our Sitting Bull.
I believe he set out to prove to his people that you don't have to sit down. You don't have to be in the background.
We're still fighting for our sovereignty and our rights today. And so Ned Christie was a voice and a symbol for us then and now.
He was fighting for his people, and that's us, the Cherokee people, which I think is why his legacy, his story still lives on.
Here at the Cherokee National Prison Museum, there is an outlaw exhibit which includes the Ned Christie story. For museum information, visit oco.tv.
Okay, so let's go back to our slides. So interesting, something different, pretty cool. I thought it was pretty cool. All right, so tell me, why was Ned being hunted? Why was Ned Christie being hunted? What did you learn from that? So tell me, we're gonna talk about what was in the video. So why was he being hunted? The lights keep going out on me. Yes, he killed a man. Right, and who did he supposedly kill? Who did he supposedly kill? A U.S. Marshal, right. He supposedly killed a U.S. Marshal, right. Right. So, and was he guilty? Was he really guilty? No, he wasn't. He wasn't. So, and how was he captured? So he was, how was he finally captured? Cannons and TNT, right. It took 5 years, 5 years. Remember they said 5 years, it took 5 years to get him because they knew, even though they knew where he was, they could not get to him. They couldn't get to him, but but it took cannons and TNT to finally get him. And then he walked out of his house with an unloaded gun and they shot him and killed him. And like this says here, one of those officers that actually came and helped the U.S. Marshals was from Siloam Springs. So again, it's all this stuff has happened around us. So we are very close to this information. I mean, this stuff happening right here, right in our area. This is very local to us. It's very close to us and those things that have happened around us. What do you all tell me about? We are historical. It is very historical around here. And actually, I have a lot of family who live in like Oklahoma, and I have a lot of family who have a Cherokee background. And so, not me, obviously, because I mean, you can tell by I'm like I go out in the sun and I get burnt in 5 seconds. But like I have some, some cousins and aunts and uncles and things like that, and it's they take pride in that and things like that. And so, and I've spent a lot of time in Tahlequah, and I was actually born in Muskogee. So, I've been over there quite a bit. So, so discuss the fact that Christy's body was propped up. So let's talk about that. Let's talk about the fact that, what do you all think about that time period? This was common. This was very common in the time period where they would take bodies of criminals and they would prop them up and they would take pictures beside them and say, hey, you know what? You better watch out. This can happen to you if you're not, and things like that, or that they would do it as a sense of pride. What do y'all think about that? What do y'all think about having those kind of pictures taken beside a criminal that was hunted down and killed by U.S. Marshals? What's your thought? What are your thoughts on that? That's not right. Okay. What makes you, why do you feel it's not right? What's not right? Believe me, I'm not saying I disagree with you. I just want you to tell me why it's not, what's not right about it? What makes you say it's not right? Anyone else have an opinion? Anybody? Anyone else have thoughts on that? Do you think that something is, do you think that's normal for them? I mean, why do you think things changed? Why don't they do that anymore? Why don't they do that anymore? Take pictures with dead criminals as a trophy. So the last thing that you remember about a person, you just don't do that. It's disrespectful. Okay. All right. What about so do you think that if he was, okay, so have you all heard of Billy the Kid? If it was Billy the Kid was white. If it was Billy the Kid, do you think it would be such a big deal? Or do you think they did this because it was an Indian? Because he was Indian and Cherokee? They probably would do it if it was Billy the Kid, to be honest with you, because Billy the Kid was notorious. But if he was a white criminal, would they do this, do you think? Do you think this was a scare tactic to the Native Americans? Hanging? Yes, they still did. I think they still did hanging back then too, yes. Do you think this was a scare tactic to Native Americans? Sydney, what do you think? Spencer, you guys haven't said anything lately. What do you guys think? It was used as a scare tactic, okay, because they wanted the Native Americans to be different, okay. to show them no one should act out or they will end up like him. Okay. All right. I think those are both good ideas. So yeah. And just, I think those are both, and it's not the right thing to do. And thank goodness they don't do that today. Thank goodness they don't do that kind of stuff today. That we don't see it as okay. Okay. So there is an article, and we don't have time, unfortunately, to read this one together. The article that is on here is something that I attached for you guys. This is the article. And so you guys will read this on your own. It's to help you with your paragraph that you'll write. But even though, just based on what you know about him, we can still talk about this a little bit. Why do you think that we still argue over the legacy of the Cherokee outlaw? So why do you think we can't, since even though we're not reading that article right now, why do you think we still talk about him today? Why do you think that he's still an important piece of the history right now? And why do people still talk about him? Based on what you watched, based on the video. Okay, as a remembrance to honor him because what they did was wrong. Okay, all right, that's good. So what else? What's another reason why they still talk about him? What's another reason why they still honor him and talk about him? Native American point of view to show that you need to defend your own rights and stand up for yourself. Okay, all right, very good. Those are both good. Mm-hmm. So, but yes, I do want you to read that article and everything. And also, so he was seen as a hero and a symbol to the Cherokee and Native American people. Yes, very good. Very good. Yes. So yeah, he is still very much a legacy among the Cherokee people. So, but yes, please read this article so that you can learn more about him before you write your paragraph. Unfortunately, we just don't have time to do that before the end of our class today. This is just a brief little information about the article. In the article about Ned Christie, his teenage cousin Arch Wolf escaped the marshals. The article states that he was not present at Christie's death, but he was sentenced to 24 months for assault with intent to kill. He was also given 2 more sentences of 18 months for selling whiskey. He was sent to prison for 2 years and eventually sent to Canton Asylum for insane Indians. So what is an asylum? What's an asylum? Anyone know? Okay, it's a jail for the mentally ill, but yeah, it's a place where people go who are mentally ill. But I wouldn't call it a jail for the mentally ill, but okay. It is a place, let's call it a hospital for the mentally ill. But they were known to not treat people so well. So this article, this is another article, and this is about, this is also another article that I attached for you all to read as well. This is about an asylum for that was only for Indians, was basically only for Native Americans. Okay, so and so I do want you to read that one as well. Okay, and so these are the questions that you get to choose from when you do your final paragraph for today. So I talked about this over here for this right here, the expanded pie paragraph. So you will choose one of these prompts to answer. Was there ever a possibility that the Native people could have won? If so, what form could this victory have taken? If not, why not? Do whites consider themselves to be culturally superior to indigenous peoples? If so, how does it fit the majority view of Native culture and land titles, religions, and inalienable rights? How has this changed over time? And how did the traditional and cultural values of the American Indians help them overcome the challenges of the past 4 centuries? So when you read the articles and then choose, and then of course, after we watched the video together and talked about Ned Christie a little bit. But after you read the articles, then choose which one of these you would like to answer on your pie paragraph. Okay, does that make sense? Yeah. Okay. So hopefully, and I wish we had more time to be able to read all that stuff together. Unfortunately, we don't because we're pretty much running out of time. Because I would love to be able to do more like in-class stuff with you. But just a couple of reminders before I let you go. Obviously, we have no class on Friday because that is no school that day. Spring break is next week. Yay. If you are behind in class, let's try to get caught up. We have tutoring today from 1 to 3 in my room. So please come if you need help. I will be here to do that, to help you out. And then also don't forget to pick up your book, The Killers of the Flower Moon. It will be it is now sitting in the office waiting for you to pick it up today or tomorrow. Pick it up before spring break. And yeah, that's it. The only work that you have is to get caught up or to complete the work that we had for today. So I'm not going to try to assign a ton of work over spring break unless you are already behind. So does anyone have any questions about anything at all? No, nothing. We're good. Bree, are you typing? I can't tell if she's typing or if you're not typing. Okay. All right, guys. Well, I will let you go and I hope you have a wonderful spring break. If I see you later this afternoon, I'll see you later. If not, I will see you on Monday, the 29th when we come back. Because that's when our next day is. Bye, guys. Have a great break.